She called my son's oxygen tank a noise violation, but karma had its own microphone. My name is Daniel Harper, and for the past 3 years, my life has revolved around the soft, rhythmic hum of an oxygen tank. It's the sound that keeps my son alive. Ethan was born with a rare lung condition. The doctors said he wouldn't make it past 5. He's 8 now, full of life, hope, and the kind of courage most adults never find. But that machine, the one that never stops, has been his lifeline. We live in a quiet suburban neighborhood called Maplewood Estates. The lawns are perfect, the fences are white, and the rules, they're stricter than most prisons. At the top of it all was our HOA president, Margaret Hill. Perfect hair, perfect smile, and a heart made of concrete. When we first moved in, she seemed nice enough. She dropped off a welcome packet full of rules, fines for leaving trash bins visible, lawn height limits, even approved curtain colors. I remember laughing about it with my wife, saying, "At least she's organized." But I stopped laughing the day she noticed Ethan's oxygen tank. It was a Tuesday morning when she showed up unannounced. I was in the yard watering the plants while Ethan sat near the window with his tank humming beside him. Margaret approached, clipboard in hand, that same polite smile hiding something cruel. "Mr. Harper," she said, "we've had a few noise complaints." "Noise complaints?" I asked, confused. She pointed at the window. "That machine, it's loud. Some residents find it disturbing, especially at night." For a moment, I just stared at her, trying to process the absurdity of what she'd said. "That machine," I finally replied, "is keeping my son alive." Her expression didn't change. "I understand that, but HOA guidelines prohibit any continuous mechanical noise exceeding 60 decibels after 9 p.m. You'll need to file for an exemption." I felt my chest tighten. "Are you serious?" "Completely," she said, scribbling something on her clipboard. "Failure to comply may result in fines. That was the first warning. At first, I thought it was a misunderstanding. Maybe if I explained, she'd understand. But the next morning, there was a notice taped to our front door. Noise violation, $250 fine. I couldn't believe it. I called her immediately. "Margaret, this is ridiculous." "My son needs that machine 24/7. Her tone was cold. "Then perhaps you should consider moving him to a room that doesn't face the street." That night, I barely slept. The oxygen tank hummed beside Ethan's bed as I watched him sleep. Every breath he took was shallow, fragile, precious. I whispered to myself, "No one's taking this from us." Not ever. But Margaret wasn't done. A week later, I caught her taking pictures of our backyard through the fence. When I confronted her, she said, "Documentation, Mr. Harper. I need proof of ongoing violations." I felt anger rise inside me. "You're documenting my child's medical equipment?" She gave a thin smile. "Rules apply to everyone. My wife, Hannah, was terrified." "What if they actually try to evict us?" she asked one night. "We can't move again, not with Ethan's health." I promised her I'd handle it. But deep down, I didn't know how, so I started recording. Every conversation, every visit, every word. One afternoon, I saw Margaret with 2 other board members walking toward our door. I turned on my phone's camera before opening it. She didn't even knock. "Mr. Harper," she said, "we've had further complaints. If the noise continues, we'll pursue removal through legal means." "Removal?" I repeated. She nodded. "Yes, of the equipment or your family if necessary. The HOA reserves that right." My hands trembled. "You're threatening to evict a sick child?" "It's not personal," she said smoothly. "It's policy." I stepped closer. "Then your policy is inhumane." She crossed her arms. "Maybe you should have considered community rules before bringing medical machinery into a shared environment." Hannah appeared behind me, tears in her eyes. "Please," she said, "he's just a little boy." Margaret looked at her without a hint of empathy. "Then keep his condition private. Others shouldn't have to suffer for it." That was the moment I realized this wasn't about rules. It was about control. Margaret Hill loved power more than people. Over the next few weeks, she escalated. More fines, more letters. And when I refused to pay, she filed an official complaint with the HOA legal committee. I received a notice saying we'd face eviction if the noise continued. That night, Ethan had a coughing fit so bad we had to call an ambulance. I stood outside, waving them down as they pulled up to our gated entrance. But just like that, the ambulance stopped. The gate wouldn't open. I ran to the keypad, locked. The system was controlled by the HOA. My heart pounded. I called the gate line, no answer. Then over the intercom, I heard her voice, Margaret's voice. "This is private property," she said. "Ambulances need prior authorization to enter. Margaret, it's my son." I screamed into the speaker. "He can't breathe!" "I'm sorry," she replied. "You should have followed proper procedures." For 30 seconds, I begged. For 30 seconds, she refused. Finally, I typed the emergency override code, one of the few privileges homeowners had, and the gate opened. Those 30 seconds felt like 30 years. We got Ethan to the hospital in time. He was pale, weak, barely conscious. The doctor said if we'd arrived just a few minutes later, we could have lost him. When I returned home, I found another notice waiting. Unauthorized use of HOA gate override, $500 fine. That's when something inside me broke. I was done being afraid. I uploaded the recordings, the threats, the noise violation comments, the intercom audio, onto a local community forum. Within hours, it exploded. People were furious. The next morning, a reporter from Channel 7 called me. "Mr. Harper, we saw the footage. Would you be willing to share your story on air?" I hesitated. My wife didn't want the attention, but I knew this wasn't just about us anymore. How many others had she hurt? How many families stayed silent? So I said yes. 2 days later, a news van parked outside our house. I remember Margaret standing across the street, arms crossed, watching as the cameras rolled. The reporter asked me to tell what happened. I kept my voice steady, but when I described that night, the ambulance, the gate, my son gasping for air, I broke down. The reporter aired the full video. They replayed Margaret's exact words. Others shouldn't have to suffer for it. It went viral overnight. Within 24 hours, over 2 million views. Neighbors who had once been silent came forward. She fined me for my wheelchair ramp. She tried to stop a rescue team from trimming a fallen tree. Story after story poured out. The next HOA meeting was chaos. Dozens of residents showed up, cameras flashing. Margaret tried to call the meeting to order, but people shouted over her. "You almost killed that boy," someone yelled. "You're a disgrace!" She tried to defend herself, saying she was enforcing policy, but it was too late. The board voted unanimously to remove her. The local news aired it live. For once, the power she worshipped turned against her. When it was over, she walked out, face pale, shaking, with reporters following every step. Her carefully built reputation shattered in one afternoon. A few days later, the mayor's office called me. They were drafting new regulations, Ethan's Law, they called it. A law making it illegal for any HOA to restrict or penalize the use of medical equipment or block emergency access. When they asked me to speak at the signing ceremony, I brought Ethan with me. He wore a little blue mask connected to his tank, smiling shyly as I told our story to a room full of officials and cameras. I ended my speech with the same words I whispered every night beside his bed. "Rules should protect people, not punish them." The crowd applauded. Ethan squeezed my hand, and for the first time in years I felt peace. After that day, things changed. Our neighbors who once avoided us started visiting again. They brought meals, toys, even helped set up a backup power system for Ethan's machine. One evening, a woman knocked on our door, a quiet resident from 2 houses down. She said softly, "I used to be afraid of her too." "Thank you for standing up." She handed me a handwritten note. Inside it said, "Compassion makes communities. Rules just keep them fenced." I keep that note on my desk. It reminds me that silence in the face of cruelty is its own kind of noise, the kind that kills slowly. As for Margaret Hill, she disappeared from the neighborhood soon after her resignation. Rumor has it she moved to another state. Some said she tried to sue the news station, but nothing came of it. Last I heard, she was working in a small property firm. No title, no authority, no microphone. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks about what she did. About the little boy whose breathing she tried to silence. Ethan's doing better now. His doctors say he's a miracle. He's learning guitar. Says he wants to play music louder than any machine ever could. Every time I hear those soft strings through the walls, I think of that day the world heard his story. The day noise became his voice. The oxygen tank still hums every night, but I no longer hear it as a burden. It's a song, a reminder that empathy can outshine authority. That one act of cruelty can spark a wave of justice, and every time I tuck him in, he looks up at me with that same innocent smile and asks, "Dad, are they still talking about us on TV?" I smile back and say, "Maybe. But more importantly, they're listening." She silenced my son. But the world silenced her louder. What would you choose, rules or compassion? Comment your thoughts, and share this story if you believe empathy should always come before authority.